Hi, everybody. Just a call to answer some questions that I've had about the trip. Some of you who've already decided and are joining me, which is amazing. I'm so excited. This is really an experience of a lifetime. There's nothing quite like it. Zambia is still considered a very wild part of Africa. It's very remote. The life on the river is just phenomenal. Bird life, wildlife. The experience close up and personal with elephants and hippos, and you'll get to see crocodiles as well, and who knows what else. It's one of those things that you just can't predict. The whole experience of being on the river and camping on islands is even more incredible. We will be staying in tents overnight on the islands, and that means that you will get the experience of hearing the wildlife, that the nocturnal wildlife, because typically most of the animals, the predators in particular, they sleep during the day when it's really hot, and they come to life at night. And so often we'll hear them calling at night, the lions roaring in the distance, and you can't tell whether they're in Zimbabwe or Zambia, because we're in between the two countries when we're camping on the islands down the river. So really exciting experience in terms of you feeling alive, really alive. I think you'll get what I mean once you get there and experience it for yourselves. So the trip is starting in just outside Chirundu, which is on the border with Zimbabwe. We're starting at Gwabi Lodge, where we'll be staying 2 nights before we set off. We will then start paddling downriver. We're going to be going down with the flow of the river, so it's really kind of gentle exercise. We will be on the canoes for 2.5 hours in the morning, approximately, and 2.5 hours in the afternoon. But that very much depends on what happens. We're not going in a straight line. I think the total distance is around 80 kilometers. But we will be canoeing to and from different islands, and there may be occasion where we have to canoe upriver a little bit, which will be against the current. So in terms of fitness, it's really important that you get yourselves a program written at the gym. If you don't know what you're doing, I need some expert advice. But you need to be really working your upper and lower back muscles, and also your arms in particular, because that's mainly what you're going to be using. We will be doing lots of stretching when we stop off. It's really important too, because you're going to get numb bums for sure. So maybe bring some kind of cushioning and layers, because we are going to be there in the winter, but their winter is very much different to our winter. Very lovely, warm, sunny days, sun all day long, but chilly in the evenings and chilly in the morning as well. So we will need your layers, long trousers, long sleeves, fleeces, that kind of thing. And sleeping bags as well. We'll be taking our own sleeping bags. And what I suggest is, if you can, or you don't have one but want to borrow one, borrow a feather down duvet, because they will keep you the warmest, because the feathers will puff up when you're in your tents at night and keep you nice and warm. Being on a tent, as I've already said, is a great way of experiencing the sounds of the African bush as well. What else do I need to tell you? In terms of food, I know a couple of you are vegans, and the lodge is very happy to cater for you. They are very open for you to suggest some ideas for them, because obviously it's not something that they do very often. Well, actually, it's not that often. Not that obvious even. What else do I need? Preparation we've already talked about. Yes, it's a malaria area, so they do get malaria, which means there are mosquitoes, but because it's the winter, then there's less mosquitoes around. They tend to not be as prominent, as well as other creepy crawlies, although you don't tend to see a lot of those when you're just visiting for short periods of time. So malaria prevention includes tablets, if that's what you want to do. I personally don't take them, but I did live there for 2 years, so we were told that to take them long term wasn't good for our system, so we didn't. So the prevention is kind of like making sure that you've got your stuff on, your mosquito stuff on your arms and ankles, the areas that mosquitoes tend to get to, and you wear long sleeves and long trousers in the evening with socks and boots so that they can't get to you. Immunizations, you will need immunizations if you haven't already got up to date. I am completely topped up, so fortunately I don't have to have it anymore, which is great from my perspective. Not something that I'm keen on. What else have we got? First aid kit. Someone asked me about first aid. Do bring your own first aid kits. You know, nothing, you don't have to bring a whole massive kit because they will have the basics there, anything that they think that they might need to cover. Hopefully no one's going to get sick, but it might be worth bringing stuff like headache tablets and anything for sunburn, you know, small cuts and grazes, plasters, a few bits and pieces like that, maybe some arnica and natural antibacterials, that kind of stuff. And that antibacterial hand wash as well would be really, really useful for you to have in your first aid kit. Just trying to read my notes here. So I think I said that we're going to be on the river about 2.5 hours in the morning and 2.5 hours in the evening. Cameras. Someone asked me about cameras and video cameras. Well, my advice is this. I will be taking my big camera. We're all going to be seeing the same things. So I am happy to take pictures and share them with you afterwards. The reason I say this is because if you are viewing everything through the lens of a camera, then you're not actually experiencing it firsthand. So I would suggest that, yeah, bring your cameras, but, you know, don't get too caught up in being stuck behind them because then you miss experience. And the same with video cameras. You might as well be watching it on telly if you're not just sitting there and just watching it with your eyes through your own lenses. Just some advice. You don't have to take me up on it. You can do whatever you want, obviously. In terms of accommodation at the lodge, they are part tent, part constructed units, and they're 2 per tent. And we use the camp showering and toilet facilities. There are separate facilities for men and women, and they are perfectly decent. I have inspected them myself, and I have very high standards. Of course, anybody can upgrade accommodation if they wanted to, but that would be $120 extra per person. And that would be a room up in the lodge. I say up in the lodge because the camp is down nearer the river. So if you want to do that, you'd need to let me know in advance so that I can block off the accommodation through the lodge. Sabi is wanting attention. Oh yeah, your passports. Please make sure that your passports have got 6 months to run after the end of the trip. Otherwise, there's a very high likelihood they won't let you in the country. I think I also mentioned in the details that there's a $50 entrance visa fee, which we do when we land at the airport as well. Canoes, the canoes are generally speaking 2 per canoe, and there is 1 canoe that will take 3 people. We will have a coxswain and a safari guide. There'll be a boat following us as well. And typically if there's someone who's very nervous, they'll go in with a guide or a coxswain, and one of them will be at the front, one of them will be at the back, and then everybody else in the middle. And we tend to do a little bit of a mix-up of people who are less nervous and people who are more nervous. We will mix them all together so that there's an equilibrium on the canoe trips. There are safety briefs before we start, and every day they will reinforce those safety briefs as well, because obviously our safety is paramount. You will have heard of stories on the news about people having not so great encounters with hippos, and hippos can be very dangerous, but that's purely and simply because they are nervous, and it's all about respect. We are in their area, and a well-organized guided trip are very respectful of the animals, and they know exactly what to do to keep us safe. So it's about listening and doing as we're told as we progress through the trip. It will be exciting, and there will be occasions probably where it will be a little bit scary as well. But as I say, we are going to be under the expert guidance of a safari guide and coxswain who are well versed in how to keep us safe during the trip. Please ensure that you let your travel insurance know that you are doing a canoe trip, because it is considered to be a dangerous activity. So to make sure that you're covered adequately, you need to tell them that's what you're doing. Fundraising. We're going to be doing fundraising through Virgin Money Giving, and the reason for that is because Conservation Lower Zambezi, who we will be visiting whilst we're there, are organising the project on the ground. They're the people who are going to be running the project in terms of the school sponsorship for the children. And so their page is just giving, Virgin Giving, and we're going to do a campaign page and then link all our pages to it so that it's then linked to the Conservation Lower Zambezi. It sounds a bit confusing, and it won't be once I've heard back from them in terms of how to make that happen, and they're being really helpful. So as soon as I have that information, I'll let you know. Someone asked me if they could tell people that they're doing this. Yes, as soon as you start talking about it, the better. It's about raising awareness and helping you to raise the money that you want to raise for these children to attend secondary education. During the trip, we will be stopping off at a village and taking you into the village so that you get to get a feel of what a rural Zambian village is like. It's completely authentic. We'll take you to one of the local schools as well, and you'll probably be able to meet some of the children and just get a real feel for it. The same thing, we'll be doing that down at Conservation Lower Zambezi. You'll be taken on a guided tour of the unit down there and see the kind of work that they do on the ground. And the whole sponsorship program for the children is linked through them, because it's so important for conservation to link education and human and wildlife conflict and sustainability, which ties it all in also with the Sustainable Development Goals launched in 2015 by United Nations. And so this program is very much linked to that. We will also be doing a bushwalk, and typically that tends to be focusing more on the flora and fauna, but occasionally you do get encounters with other wildlife whilst we're walking, and we will be guided there by the guide as well, but we will also have a ZAWA guide, and ZAWA stands for Zambian Wildlife Authority, and they are licensed to carry guns as well for our safety. And we'll be having a bushwalk, and there'll be the opportunity to do some tiger fishing, which is strictly catch and release in the Lower Zambezi as well. I will be letting you have medical forms, because it's really important if you have any medical conditions to let us know. So, things like allergies, so that if anything were to happen, we would be aware of it and be able to react accordingly in circumstances too. So I've covered everything on that list. So I've got all my lists to the side so I don't forget anything to tell you. I want to just talk to you about different fundraising ideas shortly. Binoculars, you'll definitely need binoculars. The wildlife, bird life is incredible down there. We'll see definitely the African fish eagle, which are just the most incredible. And I'm sure there'll be our alarm calls in the morning as well, which is a great way to wake up. So if anybody needs any stuff from me, like promotional stuff, pictures from previous trips, please let me know and I can forward those to you. There's also a really, really generous baggage allowance for Emirates. They allow 30 kilos per person. And I think on board you can take around 7.5 kilos. So typically what I do is I take a bag with some essentials on the flight with me, and then my main bag is mainly stuffed full of stuff for the kids. I can give you a list of the kind of things they're after: school things, equipment like footballs, old trainers. Used trainers are just as much a gift to them as new pair are to us. Any sports equipment like PE kit, shorts, trainers, jogging bottoms, sweatshirts, because they don't have that equipment at all. They can't afford it. They only afford the very basic stuff. So that's something we could talk about more nearer the time. And just fundraising, really. Well, fundraising is probably the most challenging part of the trip. And there are various different ways. I'm sure you are all have amazing imaginations. Obviously, if you're part of the business community, then it's plugging into that, maybe to your local radio station, local newspaper and news agencies. Your workplace might be prepared to match your sponsorship that you raise off your own back. Contacting relatives and friends and seeing if they've got any copper collections anyway, those old whiskey bottles that people tend to fill with coppers because they soon mount up as well. Someone was saying that they could offer their business services for a fee to go towards a sponsorship as well. I gave up alcohol for this year to raise funds, so I'm 9 months in currently. So that's another idea. What else did we have? We had someone was going to hold a gig because they knew a lot of people who are musical. In terms of donations, please make sure that people gift aid their donations, especially for UK taxpayers, because that actually will add to the pot. So when it's gift aided, there's more money involved for the charity. So that's what we're aiming to do, maximizing the amount we raise. What other ideas had we got? You can taxi friends around for a fee. Instead of using traditional taxis, they can pay you to do it. There is, all sorts. I've got a list here, so if anybody wanted it, I could always forward it to you. Golf tournaments, if you're into golf. Film evening, recreate an evening of vintage cinema by showing classic films. Dog walking for your friends for a fee. Jobs galore. I don't know. What else? Well, those are just a few ideas anyway to get you started. There's a baked bean bath as well. I don't fancy the idea of that, but some of you might, and you might be able to get some publicity for it. So I think that just about covers everything apart from the travel. But I mean, we'll get into the details a little bit nearer the time. But most people, well, I think most people are based in the north. So at the moment, that would mean us all traveling from Manchester to Dubai, and then Dubai, we connect to Lusaka. If anybody's coming from another part of the country, we'll meet them in Dubai and then travel down together. There is a possibility that I might already be there, but I will be at the airport to meet you if that's the case. So any questions, get in touch. My number is 07813 847 205, or you can email me on jane@janekeo.co.uk. So please do get in touch if you're concerned about anything or you have any questions that I haven't answered. And thank you so much for doing this, or for those of you who are considering doing it. Get on board. It's just incredible. You will not regret it. It's an amazing personal development opportunity as well, because you will come across all sorts of different things that you never thought you would. And it's just I can't even put words to it. But anyway, I will speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye.